Welcome to this edition of the High Strangeness Factor, copyrighted on the Paranormal UK radio network. I'm your host, Steve Ward. On the High Strangeness Factor, we explore all aspects of the paranormal, from the past to the present. We are especially interested in what appears to be overlaps between different categories of the unexplained, such as cryptids, UFOs, and psychic phenomena. Sometimes we even get to make breaking news. Brandy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. I'm going to tell on myself here that I completely blew the opening originally because I thought we weren't recording this. So if this conversation sounds a little stilted, that's why. Okay. Brandy and I attended the Beast of Bray Road conference this past weekend. And it's the first Beast of Bray Road conference. It was held north of Elkhorn. And of course, it's all about the Beast of Bray Road, the strange upright canid that Linda Godfrey started reporting on in the early 1990s. And of course, her first book was The Beast of Bray Road. There were several subsequent books. There was one called Monsters Among Us that deals with a sort of a high strangeness hotspot on farming land that Lee Hampel operates on. Now, the conference, I think, was a very, very successful for a first-time conference. Great speakers, and I appreciate you helped me out at my table where I sold. The first time I sold a lot of what I would say is a lot of books. I actually had bus fare to get home for a change, and
you did a great job.
But later that night, we were scheduled to go on a hayride on Lee Hampel's property. And this is very close to Bray Road. And although I don't think his property butts right up against it, but he has seen the dog man. I remember when he said when he first moved there, people were telling him there's a werewolf on the property. And of course, he's thinking they're a little crazy. But then he started getting all these incredible photographs. And you and I had the privilege of, what was his talk about? Maybe 2 hours showing us photographs?
It was, but it was riveting.
It was astounding. And we had a short hayride, but it will get more and more into the photographs with our guests because they cover all manner of paranormal phenomena, and they seem to be they occur within a very short span of time, which of course you can tell by the timestamp. But let me introduce our guest now that I'm actually recording the damn show. Okay. Jazz musician Eric Mintel leads a unique tourism business and TV show called Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, aka Eric Mintel Investigates. BCPI seeks out and features historical locations in the country that also have a paranormal history. Eric features the videos on his TV shows, which are featured on Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, Apple TV through Princeton Television every Saturday night at 10 Eastern, and on Service Electric TV2 in the Lehigh Valley in over 66,000 homes every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. BCPI is driving people to visit these wonderful locations they feature by presenting these videos in a fun, family-friendly way. At a time when people have been stuck in their homes, now they can get out and explore and experience these wonderful locations with spooky stories to tell. Bucks County Paranormal Investigations and Eric Mintel Investigates are bringing the public new but old places and locations to visit in a genre that is only getting more and more popular in today's world. Ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, werewolves, and more. Dominic Sattele and Eric Mintel have known each other since high school, and Dominic joined the team in 2018. He is a spirit medium. BCPI gets a preview of what they are investigating thanks to Dominic's insights. A mechanical estimator by trade and also a business owner as well, Dominic has always been fascinated by the paranormal and the unexplained ever since he was a child. He has been in many investigations with BCPI, and there will be a lot more to come. Eric Mintel and his team investigate it all. Eric and Dominic, welcome to the High Strangeness Factor.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Okay. So I just wanted to set the stage a bit. Of course, Brandy and I saw this incredible presentation by Lee Hampel on Saturday night. Well, the next day we decided to Bray Road to actually take a stroll, and we found a place. What Lee told us was that you can't just park your car normally on Bray Road and leave it, because you'll be ticketed, or maybe they'll tow it. I don't know, but we were able to find some private property we could park our cars, and so we we walked on the part of Bray Road that we understand is closer to his property and where the high strangeness starts. So lo and behold, we met you guys out there doing an investigation. We'll get more into your group in a moment, but what brought you there to that road at that moment?
Well, one of our great friend and fan of ours, Ellen Collins, and I guess probably for the last almost year, we're talking about, doing a video on the Beast of Bray Road, and making it part of our series. And usually we're investigating, venues that have, ghosts and things like that. So this was something completely different for us, which was great. So finally we got a chance, and Ellen wound up, she sponsored our video, and she, pretty much did everything for us to be out there. And her son Scott was also there, doing some drone footage for us and things like that. And so that's what initially brought us out there.
So maybe we should backtrack a little bit. I don't know. Do you guys see my image up there on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I don't know how that happened, but I'll figure it out as time goes on. All of a sudden, I'm surrounded by wilderness and a forest. So if anything sneaks up behind me, let me know.
Okay.
I have.
Just don't
Okay.
turn around.
One of those. No. Well, just tell me when to run. So let's back up a little bit and tell us about how the group was formed and what kinds of activities do you normally do?
Yeah, I'm basically, and I'll let Dom also after this, pretty much in 2016, I started Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, but, being a jazz musician, I've always loved the paranormal for as long as I can remember. And so in 2016, I just decided, I'm going to meld my love of jazz and the paranormal and start Bucks County Paranormal Investigations. And we started doing videos. And at first, the videos were kind of tongue in cheek. They were fun and they're just funny. And then we started getting into videos where we're actually going in and investigating haunted locations where we're from here in Bucks County. And so that's what we started to do. And now that we're starting to do more of this, more of these venue locations, now it's turned into a whole business where we're basically promoting paranormal tourism. And by that, I mean, there's so many different locations, just not in Bucks County, but all over the country. We were just down in Georgia, and what we're doing is we're basically featuring these wonderful locations that, are right in people's backyards that have no idea of the rich history that's around them, and we're telling those stories. And then I'll let Dominic tell you how he came into the group. But Dominic, we reconnected after 30 years or something like that, almost.
In almost 30 years.
Yeah, in 2018, and come to find out, well, Dominic and I were both martial artists back in the day. We're always worked out together, and we were actually putting together a martial art video back in the late 80s, early 90s, and so here he just appears again, and we start doing these videos. It was great, and then I didn't even know all those years that I knew him that he was a spirit medium. So that was a bombshell.
Wow.
So. Dom, you tell him how you came into it.
Eric was at a mutual friend of ours, and he was doing one of the videos. It was a tongue-in-cheek video, and I had showed up and was hanging out and hanging around and operated the camera a little bit, and Eric invited me to join in on the fun. So I played a small part towards the end of that video, and right from there, it kind of, when we were talking, he was saying how he wanted this to progress. I explained to him that I can see ghosts and I hear things and feel things, and just kind of added that to the team. And since then it's really taken off. I mean, we did a video up in Quakertown, up around the corner from where we are, and it went off and took off. It was Underground Railroad. There were ghosts. there was a lot there at that venue. So
Yeah, yeah, and having Dom on the team, like you just said, it's like a preview of what we are, what we're about to go into, and kind of like whenever I go into a location, I never tell Dominic, anything about that particular location, so he'll get like the first kind of like tuning in when we go into that location, if that makes sense. Where I don't want him to know anything that I know about it. So then this way, when he does come up with something, which blows us away usually all the time, then that gives us validation that, okay, there's something really going on here. Now, I tend to, go into a lot of these, not, I would say skeptically, but like, open-minded. I'm very open-minded, but I'm also going to try to look at a lot of these things scientifically. Okay, what's really going on here? So is every place haunted? And I'm thinking, well, there's got to be an explanation. But the more and more we've been doing this, and the more and more we've caught on video, I'm getting to be more of a believer that I am a believer in there is residual energies out there for sure. And there is something going on in that way that's disturbing that area because we've seen it. We felt it firsthand. But the more and more we do this, the more evidence we get. And again, it just gives us more validation to something is really going on here. Whether it's ghosts, Bigfoot, Beast of Bray Road, whatever. It's just, it's very, very fascinating.
Dominic, so
Yes.
did you, you're a sensitive. What was it? When did you realize you had this ability? Did you have to deal with this as a young child, or what was growing up like having this ability?
When I was younger, it definitely, it definitely was different having it. My grandmother had it, and I grew up knowing it, and I kind of shut it off. I kind of kept it hidden because you don't want to be an outsider when you're in school. You don't want to be any different. You want to be like everybody else. When I got older, I really started to let it come back and tune in. But really, I kept it more to myself. I didn't really go out of my way to go up to anybody and say, "Hey, your grandfather's here. He wanted to say hi," something like that. But the older I get, the more I'm doing that, and especially when we're on investigations, I let it come to me more naturally. So, and that really, we did one investigation, and I kept feeling a fire, and Eric talked to the owner, and the owner was like, "Oh yeah, there was a fire here," and I said somebody had died, and somebody did. And not having any knowledge of that, but knowing it happened, that's a bonus for us as the team.
Mm-hmm.
Is this ever a burden for you? Some of the stuff that's being placed on you?
No, I wouldn't say it's a burden. It's definitely it's a gift. I guess it depends on how you look at it. But to me, it's a gift. It's not a burden because I've
Can you
had it for all these years.
can you shut it off if you have to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and
that's
there are times that I have when if I go to a like Gettysburg when we went out there for a family vacation, I had to shut it off. If I didn't, it was going to give me an extreme headache, and all these people just came flooding to me. So I had to basically tell them, "Look, I'm off duty. Leave me alone."
And
eh,
Steve,
yes.
I will say this though. When you just said is it a burden? When we just did this investigation just a couple of weeks ago, actually. We went into this one room, and Dominic just had this unbelievable feeling like somebody was standing on his chest. So he had to
Yeah.
leave the room. It was like he was like really, really, and that's the first time I've really ever seen him really that distraught on a case. And he had to leave the room, and he had to sit down. And I went up to him and I said, "Look, the safety of the team is more important here than anything. So it was like somebody was standing on his chest. So in those instances, you really have to be careful. I mean, and he knows, right, Dom? I mean, Dominic knows kind of he could tune it in, but sometimes you can't shut it off. That's the other thing.
Correct. Sometimes you can't. And, I don't think that's a burden. It's just there's a reason why you can and you can't shut it off at times. because
Mhm.
there's somebody there that has something important to share, and I think that's when they really come forward and they're really basically in front of you and not letting you out of it.
I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to ask you about what you might have been picking up in the area where you were doing your investigations on and around Bray Road. But
Mhm.
Eric, have you? Are you sensitive at all? Do you? I've heard that some people that do a lot of these investigations, even though they weren't originally sensitive, start to become a little bit sensitive to the areas.
Oh, sure. I think I'm sensitive to the fact of being a jazz musician, just being a creative individual. I think I'm sensitive, just by osmosis to sounds and just environments and things like that. Um, into the spirit world, that I can't see that. I can't see what Dom sees. I can't tune into that. Or maybe I can. Maybe I don't. Maybe I haven't developed that. But my father went to a psychic years and years ago, when I was just a kid, and the psychic said to my dad that he has a very, very blue aura, around him. And then, but the psychic said, your son has one that's even greater. So, that's something I just never really developed. I never really, developed that at all. But I think just being a creative individual, it kind of makes me sensitive to, every, kind of environment we're in, if that makes any sense.
Yes, I know Brandy has had a few experiences, but I sort of, if you know what a shunt trip is in electronics, that's kind of what I do to the paranormal. It just nothing ever happens around me, and I wonder sometimes if I'm actually a dampener to some areas does have activity. Um, but by the way, where is Bucks County located in Pennsylvania? Kind of give us a geographic idea about that.
Sure. Well, we're in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So it's basically about 60 miles northeast of Philadelphia, and
Okay.
maybe a little less. But yeah, and beautiful area here. We really love it. A lot of rich history here. We're in an area right down the street where Washington crossed the Delaware. We've got a lot of different locations around this area that are in the history books. So it just stands to reason there's so much history and there's so much paranormal activity around our area, and especially like Dom mentioned, we have a lot of ties around here to the Underground Railroad.
Oh,
Yep.
interesting. With your family history or just the area?
No,
The
the
area.
area with the
Okay.
different, yeah, the different venues that we've investigated.
I live in a little town east of Battle Creek, Michigan, and apparently it has quite a history with the Underground Railroad as well. Uh,
Hmm.
Brandy, are you bursting with any questions yet?
Well, I did just want to comment that I visited Bucks County before, and I was just in awe of the fact that all of the new developments, were there. But
Hmm.
maybe a block down the road was an old stone farmhouse. So it's kind of like the new and the old are almost right on top of each other, which I thought was great that they were saving the history of the
Right.
county, even though they're building, you know, up new all over the place. So I
Sure.
just wanted to add that comment. They do save their history there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Could you guys tell us about your team? I know you've spoken highly of a lot of the people that do different things for your group, and also there are some names that people will know when you tell us. But kind of give us an idea of what your team is like and what they do.
Sure. Well, beside Dominic and I, we've got Bill Burns, who you'll know from UFO Hunters and Ancient Aliens. He's he's an author, and what a great knowledge of information he is, and incredible. Bill Burns is with us. We have Karen Luchin, who is another spirit medium. Karen has been also invaluable, like Dom. And Karen and Dom kind of go in as a team, to tackle the activity before we even get there. And then we have Dave Antonow, who is we've been friends for the last 21 years, and he's a bass player in my jazz quartet. And like Dom, when I started Dave and I knew each other, or have known each other for years, and I started Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, and then come to find out Dave loves videoing and shooting video as much as I do, and is into the paranormal as much as I am. So it's just a good melding of everybody, and everybody on the team is great to work with. In a lot of the other things that I do, like this, we do some interviews. I've interviewed Uri Geller. Remember him from the 70s?
Oh, sure.
Bender. And he loves what we're doing. I've interviewed Charles Halt from the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident.
Oh, yeah.
Great guy, and just incredible information there. Jim Peniston, also from the Rendlesham Forest. But other people like, oh my God, Kathleen Martin, the niece of Betty. Yep, the niece of Betty and Barney Hill. You've probably interviewed her too.
I had a table next to her at the Exeter County UFO Festival, and what a blast! I mean, she gave me insights about her book that she wrote with Stanton Friedman, Captured, that you wouldn't have known just by reading the book. And what a great lady!
Oh, she was great. Yeah, and I mean, just incredible, and I mean, there is like the very first UFO abduction case in 1961. And that case was incredible. So all of these great people that we've been able to interview has been phenomenal. I mean, and the list goes on. So yeah, it's just been great.
You're connected with Stan Gordon as well?
Yes, Stan Gordon. Yep, Stan. Of course,
Gordon. He's another Pennsylvania resident that, if people don't know, he investigated a wave of UFO and Bigfoot reports in 73 and 74 in southwestern Pennsylvania. I remember reading his articles in UFO Report back when I was a mere lad, back in the mid 70s.
I just talked to Stan a couple of weeks ago because we were supposed to do another Zoom interview, but it's been getting crazy here in the office, I'm so blessed that we're so busy, which is great. And Dominic and I have been on the cases. We were just out in Wisconsin, and then we just did this other video. We've got a couple more videos coming up, and then on top of that, I'm a band leader as well. So I'm keeping a busy schedule, performing and touring as well. So it's been great. So yeah, Stan Gordon. He wrote an incredible book too, the Bigfoot UFO Connection, which I always thought of as that was a major connection that not a lot of people were talking about is that connection and that phenomena. So that's something that's been fascinating me, and we're going to be doing a lot more of too. And as a matter of fact, on Monday, Dominic and I are going into the Pine Barrens of New Jersey with a Bigfoot researcher, and we are investigating Bigfoot in the Pine Barrens.
Wow.
So everybody knows about the Jersey Devil, that's supposed to be in the Pine Barrens. Well, that may be true, that may be there too, but I've always thought that the Jersey Devil was maybe being misidentified as a Bigfoot, only because the researcher that we're going to be with, Eric Spinner, he has got incredible evidence. He has castings, hair samples. He's got recordings of this creature, and people have trail cam and video of these creatures going into the neighborhoods, getting garbage from the neighborhood, and going back out to the woods. And they're not bears because they're standing up on two legs.
Wow.
Wow.
I was always fascinated by Stan's work because, there were all kinds of strange lights and strange looking craft in conjunction with these really bizarre Bigfoot reports, almost paranormal Bigfoot. And I'm wondering, again, this is a question we can pursue later. Do you see a parallel with all the phenomena that seems to surround the Dogman in southern Wisconsin?
Well,
go ahead.
Let Tom answer that.
I'm going to say yes. And not to lead into anything, but yes, definitely. I think there's a parallel there.
Yeah, well, how did you, boy, so many questions. But by the way, Uri Geller is fascinating himself because he was surrounded by phenomena. And one of the guys, I can't think of his name, that was investigating him, he formed a group. They believed they were in contact with extraterrestrials. They were channeling, and they wrote a book called like Preparation for the Landing or something like that.
Are you talking about Ingo Swann?
No, not Ingo Swann. This was Plutarch or something like that. I'm
Oh,
murdering
yeah,
his name.
Kuharek.
Plutarch. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yes,
Mhm.
he wrote a book called something like Preparation for the Landing.
Andre.
But well, Ingo Swann is fascinating too. Remote viewing the far side of the moon and helping the military. Oh, why? Maybe anybody in your group a remote viewer?
Well, Dom.
Possibly.
I
Hmm.
think
Okay.
I think Karen is actually, because I think I asked her that the other day, and I think she had done some work with police officers and missing persons and things like that. So I think that she maybe, I'll have to ask her again. Um, I did want to say one thing going back to Uri Geller. Now, interviewing him was incredible. I'm going to talk about a wealth of knowledge there and just a history. But he knew all the stars of the day. John Lennon, Elton John, all Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, all these guys that would want to hang out with Uri Geller because he was he was like the mystic. They all wanted to know what he knew. But so John Lennon, I'm sure you've heard about John Lennon's UFO sighting.
Yes.
With so after John Lennon had this UFO sighting, and I think it was 1974, right in New York City. Apparently, John Lennon had another encounter with these extraterrestrials, and they had given him this golden egg. It was like it looks like like an egg, like a small egg, but it's solid. It's a heavy type gold or bronze or brass or whatever it is. They don't even know what the material is, but he gave it to Yuri, and Yuri has that egg. And apparently, this thing is a way of communication. But I was privileged. Yuri showed it to us during an interview, and he doesn't do that with anybody.
Wow.
So it was really cool.
I know that he claims I think as a young child, some kind of a contact with what appeared to be aliens or some kind of entities, and I think he credits that experience with his abilities.
Yes, he
But
does.
I just and this is kind of an aside. Jim Mars wrote a book called Sci Spies or something like that, but he talks
Mm-hmm.
about the military remote viewing program, and of
Mm-hmm.
course we all know that they were looking for commies and spies, right, and
Mm-hmm.
secrets. But once in a while they'd get a blind target that was a complete red herring, like
Mm-hmm.
coordinates on Mars or something to do with UFOs. Well,
Yeah,
they gave
right.
the target as Nessie one time. So they were
Mm-hmm.
getting something that was kind of like a plesiosaur, but whatever it was, it had mass and would leave a wake. And then when they tried to determine where it came from, it would disappear.
Wow.
And when you follow the Ted Holliday, when you follow his research into Loch Ness in the 70s, he came to the conclusion that this may not be a flesh and blood creature. And again, I think another parallel possibly with Stan Gordon's research and maybe your own research. So, and Brandy, by the way, charge in here anytime you want. uh, how did you guys get connected with Lee Hampel? Tell us about him.
Well, this is amazing too, and I do have to say also too, it was great to just here. I have to say, I have to also set the stage too. Going back to you and Brandy, I think Dominic and I were we were hanging out in the corn next to the road there because we were trying to
Well, who doesn't, right?
get. We're like, wait a minute. So one of the guys on our team says, "Are we expecting company?" And then there you guys were. So it was good, that. And it was like, here
Yeah.
we are, like roaming around the corn
We
in the
didn't
middle
look
of
too
guys-
shady, did we?
You,
no.
you looked official, so we wanted to see what the heck you were doing out there, crawling through
Yeah.
the corn.
Just being nosy.
Yeah, oh, that's all right. That's good. So it was great though, and I mean, and here we are, which is phenomenal, man. So yeah, so Lee was great because what happened was, um, I had seen Lee on Paranormal Declassified, which was on the Travel Channel last year.
Right.
That was, I think it aired in maybe November, December of last year. So after seeing that episode on the Beast of Bray Road and Lee, and I just, something about Lee told me, hey, I should give this guy a call, man. He seems like he's really like down to earth and, he's not BSing anybody. And, let's see if we could talk to him and get something going. Not thinking that I'd ever be out there. So, I called, he has a website, called the number, and we were on the phone for a good hour and a half. And
Wow.
really great, knowledgeable guy to talk to. And so we had a great conversation. And I had said, wow, I really want to try to get out there to do a video. And one of the things that always, because we're just kind of doing this independently, was always like, financially, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get out there? So, and again, thank God, Ellen Collins, she stepped in. Basically, I guess just maybe about I guess, what do you think, Dom, 2 months ago or something like
about
that?
2 months ago.
Because Ellen and I were talking about it too. Ellen has done so much research on the Beast of Bray Road and on a lot of different things, Bigfoot but mainly the Beast of Bray Road. So that's been always fascinating to her. And so when we talked, I said, well, it would just be great to get out there. We should just try to do some kind of a story, and that's how we got out there. And then I contacted Lee and I said, hey, Lee, we're going to be coming out in October. And then just by happenstance, the conference, this is all just serendipity. Like
Oh my gosh.
the conference just happened to be going that day that we landed, and we got in early, and we came over to the farm, met Lee before he did his talk, and it was great. It was like, just I felt like it was two old buddies, that we've known each other for years.
Yeah, he's quite a guy. And let's give a
Mhm.
shout out to his brother Fred, who is
Oh,
also a great
Yeah.
guy.
Fred was phenomenal.
Greg
No,
was, Dominic will tell you, man, he was phenomenal.
I want to get into some of his photographs with you in a moment, but when Lee was finding literally, and the same thing happens with Bigfoot tracks, in the middle of the snow, all of a sudden the tracks start of these pads that wildlife experts told Lee could not possibly exist. He must be lying and must have faked these. But Fred had the solution. He said they must have parachuted in.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
let me do my brief intermission here, and then we'll get right back to it.
Mhm.
You are listening to the High Strangeness Factor. I am Steve Ward. Brandy and I are talking to Eric and Dominic about their recent investigations on Bray Road. Can we talk about the images, all four of us, that Lee showed us? I presume you've seen the images that he captured, or at least many of them.
Yeah.
What? Let's talk. Okay, I'll say briefly. I know it's. I mean, I've always known that these areas exist, and I've always known that things seem to cross over. But I saw stuff that looked like perhaps some kind of a metallic object. Some of them looked like they might have been biological. Plenty of footprints he's taken. The strange mists that show up, and deer carcasses that vanish. Uh, let's hear some of your impressions. Describe some of the images as best you can for the people, and what do you think? And also, Brandy, please chime in.
Absolutely.
Well, there were a couple of things that Lee didn't show us, which I'm sure he didn't show you guys either, and that out of respect for Lee, I don't want to talk about those. But
Okay.
but he there were a couple of photos that he wouldn't let us photograph, but everything that he's got, and some videos and stuff too, were fascinating. Just I don't know where to start. I mean, you had said about the footprints in the snow, though, going from one track and then it's kind of veering off to two tracks, like
Right.
Yes.
from one, all of a sudden it morphs into two.
Right.
But here's the
Going
thing
in
with,
opposite directions.
correct. But with those tracks, it's not a four-legged animal. I want to specify that. It's definitely two legs, because you only see, if you go out in the snow yourself and you walk through the snow, you leave one set of tracks.
Right.
And it's 1 foot in front of the other, which is exactly what these footprints were.
Mm-hmm.
So four-legged animal, it would have a different gait, it would have more steps, and this was not.
What fascinated me about the deer carcass picture, which I know you saw too, was the fact that here's this deer that was in front of this tree, and the tree itself had a notch in the tree. Well, all of a sudden, like the next, like I don't know how many hours it was, but I think it was maybe the next day, that deer went from being like maybe 10 feet in front of that tree to being in the notch of the tree.
Right.
So,
Yes.
meaning that something had to pick this thing up and put it in the notch of the tree.
And he stated that his cameras were both visually sensitive as well as heat sensitive.
Mhm.
So
Correct.
somehow that deer moved without the camera picking up what it was that moved it.
That is the strange part. That's the high strangeness factor right there.
There's several cases where he put, either there was a deer carcass there or something that he placed out, and you would see a mist, and then in one case, with this one, I think it was a raccoon, was sliced open, but almost like with razor precision. So it's like, the implication is, I know researchers that are firmly convinced that these dogmen, and Lee has seen them, by the way, and even photographed them at a distance, but that they're firmly convinced that this is a flesh and blood creature that has somehow remained elusive all these years, even in relatively flat Wisconsin. And but but they seem to be able to manipulate the cameras. It's so that they're unobserved. There was a couple of photographs he had of kind of a partial silhouette that implies it's one of these things. But what a paradox! A supposedly a beast that acts on instinct and attacks roadkill, but it seems to be able to elude the cameras. Just like the cameras on the Skinwalker Ranch as well. I mean, there are a lot of patterns here with these areas.
Right.
Well,
But I think Lee
yeah.
had out regular trail cameras. I mean, they weren't anything that somebody else couldn't use.
Correct.
And he placed them in other places, and nothing would happen. So it's something unique to this area.
I can say this: that night, we did have a lot of electrical disturbances. I know we were trying to hook up a GoPro, and it just was not connecting. And then earlier in the day, one of our guy Scott was operating his drone, and for some odd reason, he could see us. Or how did that go, Don? What did he say? He couldn't see us or something.
We basically disappeared out of sight, even though we were not even 100 feet from him.
Oh my
His
gosh.
camera just totally lost sight. We just kind of disappeared off his camera.
But it didn't blank out. He could still see the terrain.
He could still see the terrain.
Wow.
It was in the air flying. And he had VR goggles on, and he was basically circling us. And he circled us about 3 times, and the 4th time and 5th time, he's like, "You guys just disappeared."
Oh my god.
Did he think he was going to have to fill out a missing persons report?
He actually lifted up the glasses to make sure we were still there.
Oh my gosh. That sounds like a missing 411.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You're
crazy.
there, but you're not.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, there's a lot that could be said about that just alone, just that kind of a phenomenon. That was very unnerving.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we went out to the field at night, and Lee and his brother even said to us, "You guys are crazy if you do. It's a different. When you go out there at night, it's very different. You're in a different world."
Fred
and
said,
honestly, yeah.
what did you pick up? Were you picking up anything?
Well, earlier in the day, Fred had said to us, and I'm glad Dominic reminded me of that too. He had said, and I'll never forget it. He says, "This place changes at night." And
Well,
it
absolutely did.
Yeah, it really did. And Fred is a wonderful guy. I mean, he was just an awesome guy. Fred is the best.
Yes.
But he was like a total skeptic. And he was an IT guy. He worked for IBM, total skeptic. And even Lee, he had said, if you would have told me when I bought this farm, I would have, in 2013, there was a creature running around here, I would have thought you were crazy. But I mean, these guys are sane. Lee's a retired math teacher, very bright guy, always wanted to be a farmer. And then Fred, his brother, just really stellar people. But for them to have these experiences again, lends a lot of validity to what is going on there.
Right.
Lee told us a story about one night they kept a night vigil out there by a bonfire. And as gentlemen will do, they have to wander away sometimes to answer nature's call. He said that that circle, but they were wandering away, was getting smaller and smaller throughout the night. They were
Yeah.
hearing all kinds of strange noises and everything. And by the way, the Beast of Bray Road statue on the road, is that a wood carving?
It is a wood. It's a wood carving, and we went up to the door, and I'm surprised I did this because I being totally new to the area there, I just went knocking on the door, and I figured, well, if we're going to do some video, at least in pictures, I really want to ask the owner, if we could do that. And so I went to the door, and I guess nobody has ever really talked to the guy, but because they were afraid to talk to him. But I was waiting to hear, in the and but then I knocked on the door, and great guy came to the door, and I said, "Hey, man, the statue out front is beautiful, man. It's really cool." And I think that set the stage for him to be like. At first, he was maybe a little standoffish, but then after that, he was great.
That's great.
And he was a great guy. And said we could take pictures, but he has never had any sightings. But he had that carved from a dead tree that was on his property.
Wow.
And he said, I think, what did he say, Dom? Something like 30, 40 people a day come by there and take pictures.
Wow.
Yeah. He gets a lot of foot traffic, a lot of cars parking in his drive. But yeah, he said the tree was blocking the sun from hitting his porch, and it was making it cold. So when it died, he figured, there's nothing else here for the beast. So he decided to pay somebody to come out and carve it.
Wow.
And that thing is easily 7+ feet tall, and it's a really good likeness.
It is.
And to describe it, it's got like one paw raised, and it's got chains around it. Yeah. So fortunately, the beast is restrained there. I think he's a little further down. It seems to me that it's that one end of Bray Road that seems to have the activity. And did I ask you what brought you to that particular cornfield you were investigating?
Go ahead, Dom.
That's the closest spot to Lee's property. It's
okay.
It's 0.2 miles away from the corner of his property, and that is the biggest area where the beast has been seen crossing the road, eating dead roadkill. And when we were there, where we met you, there was actually an automobile that had ran off the road, and the cornfield was a little disturbed, and we went over to see what was going on, to check it out. And we don't know whose car it was. We couldn't find the person, so there was no way of asking what happened. Were you drinking? Was it the beast? That kind of a thing. But we noticed that there was other paths in the corn, and that's when you had pulled up. Eric and I were investigating those paths.
Paths, like because the corn was disturbed, or you saw footprints or tracks in.
Yeah. What happened was I'll just say that I'll just say this, that when we had Scott put the drone in the sky, I couldn't believe what we saw.
Oh my gosh.
So it was getting a bird's eye view, and that's really all I want to really say about that, because I want you to see the video of what happened there.
So that
was an eye opener.
That's one of these tantalizing hints that's going to keep me awake at night, Eric.
Yes.
Only till Halloween, Steve. Now, I'm gonna try to get this right by Halloween.
Okay, excellent. Well, will you guys come back on around that time
and
talk specifically about, and we'll make sure that Brandy is available for the show, and I would love to have the big reveal. Right now, I want to get people really angry and give them some more hints, but you just can't tell them everything. I can tell you, but I'm not going to. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
let's put it this way. When we do investigations, I go in with an open mind, and I go back and never really feel a sense of, hey, we're maybe in harm's way or something like that. I will say that we kind of had that feeling, being in one of the locations, but that was the other thing, and then just the overall feeling of everything. And just we were very unprepared. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
But you got evidence. You got something anomalous on the drone.
Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely.
yeah, we had it
on the drone on camera.
On camera. Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely, it was very intense. Um, and I would just say we were out there. We didn't stay out very long. And there's reasons for that, but yeah, just very uncomfortable. Lee originally, he said, do you guys want a flare gun? Just something to have.
Gosh.
And I said, nah. I said, we'll be fine. I've been out in the woods before, at night. But this was definitely, it was out of my element. I'm a spirit medium, and the spirit was not there, but there was other things.
And
Can you say what? I'm sorry.
I
Go
got
ahead, Randy.
I got Dominic to say, "What, Mintel? What did you drag me into?"
Yep.
And I said, "Dominic, another fine mess I've gotten us into."
I thought you guys looked like a famous comedy team.
Yeah, right.
Randy, go ahead.
Well, I wondered if Dominic could maybe get a little bit more specific about what he was picking up, like what he was feeling. Like, was it dread, or was it fear, or was it, something that was making you, I don't know, maybe nauseous?
We want you to come clean with some of the cosmic vibrations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put it this way. I felt like I was a scuba diver in a shark cage, and I was holding the bait.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh.
So if that tells you anything,
Yeah.
because we had placed bait there.
Oh.
I can say that much, to try to draw something
Earlier, but
early.
we had
in
placed
the
it
day.
earlier in the day. So here's what we were always saying too. Was that a good idea or a bad?
But that's about all I want to reveal till the video comes out.
Okay.
But with being on video, and Eric is a great editor, and the magic's in the editing. But as he's going through and he's downloading and he's rewatching, I keep getting texts on my phone, dude, you're not going to believe this, and I get a little video clip, and then next thing I know, I'm on the phone with him talking to him. So there was a lot of that going on.
Great.
Even with our other videos with the paranormal, with our ghost videos in a lot of the venues that we go into, a lot of the stuff won't reveal itself until in post-production. We may not see anything there, like orbs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was recently in Georgia. Dominic couldn't make this one. I wish he had been down there, but we were in Georgia, and Dave Antonow and I were in an art center. And the art center itself, about a month earlier, had housed African art, very, very cool African art. But the art was the kind of art that, through some kind of ancient ritual, the spirit of the artist or the spirit of that person in the art was placed within the artwork somehow. Well, let me say this. We went in there, we have a magnetometer, and that magnetometer is going to basically check to see if there's any fluctuations in any of the Earth's magnetic waves, anything in the area, any disturbances. So we had gone in there, and we had our night vision on, and we went in, and that magnetometer, right in this particular area where this big gorilla, I guess, had been housed, or it was on display, that right in that area, the magnetometer went off the charts. And then right after that, you could see on the video an orb presents itself, and it comes up right from behind me.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't believe it. So I stopped the video on that so everybody could see that. I mean, we heard footsteps. We were investigating this other theater. And I had played this theater as a jazz quartet in Georgia years ago, but I never knew about the paranormal activity there. But we caught footsteps behind the stage, and we also got a disembodied voice. But we heard that one there that night. So, and I was able to capture that, but we didn't capture the footprints until I heard it later on. So that happens a lot. I mean, Dominic will tell you, we're on a lot of different cases all the time. and we'll see these things or we'll hear them, but then we'll actually see them on video. And you have to look, and it's sometimes you don't have to really look, closely. It's right there. It's like plain as day.
Wow.
Presumably, with all the activity that you experienced in real time, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you catch many other anomalies when you review the evidence.
Right.
Oh, I'm already, Steve, and Brandy, I'm already seeing, and like Dom said, I'm seeing stuff on a daily basis that I had no clue that we even saw that night.
Well,
So
even in the photos, that Lee was showing, there were photos of him inspecting something that he had set out in front of a trail cam, and there was anomalous stuff happening on the photo that he said he didn't even see while he was there. Something
and there was one
obscuring
with
him.
mist.
Yes,
he was right next to this.
Mist.
That would creep me out.
But it wasn't there when he was there. I mean, he didn't see it. But the photograph of him showed this mist around him. So
I mean, I have chills just thinking about that, because that was exactly right. Dominic and I were saying too. Even if it was condensation on the lens, there's no way. And a second later, that was clear as a bell.
Right.
But when he walked through it, he kind of disappeared. He disappeared behind her. So again, we're going back to what Scott experienced on the drone. So
when you two disappeared.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just the strange thing. And Ellen Collins was with us on the investigation as well. So she came out and she came out in the field with us. I was going to have Lee come out to the field with us, but I said, I'm going to keep him back there because I want to experience this, unbiased.
Mm-hmm.
And just going into it, and Dominic could tell you, I wasn't expecting to see or hear anything. But
surprise.
My whole world changed. But crazy thing too, later on that night, the entire power grid went out in Elkhorn.
Yeah.
Really?
No.
Yeah, we were
out
staying in the hotel, and power went out in the hotel, and Ellen actually had to take Scott back early at like 3:00 in the morning back to catch a flight so he could go home. And when she said they had to walk down the stairs because the elevators weren't working, and the whole town was out.
Oh,
it was out
my
for
gosh.
quite an extended period. So, I blame Eric for that, because he brought a stick. He actually had a stick in his room that fell off his clothes from Lee's farm.
Well, that's good. You won't have to blame Bucks County's Paranormal then. It's just Eric's fault.
Exactly.
Eric's fault.
In the hotel room.
Yep. Time grows short, but I do want to get to some speculation just for the heck of it. But first, Linda in Monsters Among Us talks about a sighting in the 90s in Pennsylvania. Driver's going along. He sees a light or an orb moving in the woods. He thinks it's an ATV. He's concerned because it's got to be a rough area, and it's going to intersect with the road, and it's kind of a steep cliff down to the road. He thinks this guy must be crazy. And then it morphs into a dog man and sprints across the road. Well, I can't help but think, if it's a true story, I can't help but relate it to the vanishing and the appearing footprints on Lee's property.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's definitely correlated for sure.
Okay, this is now not going to hold you to any of this, but when we look at these things, my area of interest has long been high strangeness areas. I'm known in many quarters as the Mothman guy, and as everybody knows, that there's all kinds of stuff that surrounded the sightings of the Mothman. We have the Skinwalker Ranch, we have Marley Woods, the Bridgewater Triangle, and of course we have that corner in Pennsylvania, Chestnut Ridge, where all kinds of things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this paradox. Lee showed us photographs of something that looked like a tortoise shell. It zipped around this tree in just a really short period of time. We know by the timestamp. We saw this really strange, almost ribbon-like thing, creature or whatever, and off to the right is something that looks kind of like a car. It's not a car. It's boxy. It's got a couple wheels on it, or something that looks like wheels. It's a three-ring circus of the paranormal. He's had light anomalies. Again, these mists would show up. He showed us several cases where there was the deer carcass, and then it's gone with no footprints or drag marks. Uh,
Right.
so there seems to be some technology involved here. There seems to be some kind of creature that is not supposed to be intelligent. And if they are, they have a hell of a menu. What do you guys? I mean, you guys must speculate sometime to try to put it together. It's so difficult to find a narrative out of this. So, any rough ideas that you want to throw out there about what might be going on?
I'll say a couple of things, and then Dom, you give your insights. But I mean,
Sure.
I think there is that. You had said earlier, Steve, about you could be a dampener as far as that goes, but I don't think so. But I think there are people that are connected to the spirit world and to those phenomena. I think there's people like that are connected to that, whether it be ghosts, cryptids, or UFOs, that somehow, some way, they're connected to that, and these things just present themselves. As far as an answer, again, I've always thought that the Bigfoot UFO phenomenon was a connection there, because of the fact that we never see this creature, and the fact that it just seems to be there and then it's gone, it disappears. Are we talking portals, or are we talking maybe interdimensional? That's the other thing. These things could be interdimensional. The pictures that we also saw, that lead the ones that you were talking about. I mean, that's the same thing. It's like, these things are there. And just the fact that he's got all these trail cams around to capture this is phenomenal. And again, it's all just very unexplained. What is it? We just have no clue how to put it together. This thing has been around. It's been talked about. I guess the dog man's been talked about, in Elkhorn, I guess since the 30s, people have been seeing this thing. So is it a family? Is there a family running around there for generations and generations? That's the other fascinating factor. What do you think, Dom?
There's definitely there is something there. I mean, it's got shelter, it's got food, it's got water. It's got the cornfields, it's got trees to hide in. But yeah, there's definitely, and I'll go to the same way as, UFOs and Bigfoot and UFOs and possibly the dog man. Because, when you see the video, it's just going to give you more questions than answers.
Yeah.
No matter how many times we go out to an investigation and we go to do something, we always come out with more questions than we do answers. We answer a little bit, but then it just opens up another can of worms of more questions.
We answer, and that's right. And Dominic's exactly right. We answer a little bit of the question because we have some validity to what everyone's been talking about, or on sometimes we have validity, not all the time, but at least it gives you more to talk about and more to investigate.
Yeah, and I mean, Lee's got thousands of photos and hundreds of videos that he showed us, and I was just looking at them, and I was a little skeptical. Some of those I was like, we always get blamed for lens flare. Oh,
Sure.
It's lens flare. It's not an orb. It's lens flare. And there's a clear difference between lens flare and an orb. And I think we've really been showing people the differences, just so that they understand that it's not lens flare. The last video we just did, we had Eric's tripod fall, and we had something knocked off a table, and the tablecloth was moving, and we were on the other side of the room.
So so Steve, here's just a little bit of a reveal that way, and I could say this anyway, so because we've been talking about it, which we still are trying to figure this out. But real quick, just Dominic, Karen, and I, and Dave Antonell, we were all on this case at this restaurant, and we went into the ballroom. By the way, Dominic felt his father in that room because his father had his 40th birthday party there.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Dominic was feeling that, so he was feeling good feelings in that room. Karen was feeling, well, Karen had said she was getting a headache immediately. I had put when we walked into the room just to check it out. We had our cameraman shooting, but before we shot, I put my tripod on the chair, and I put it flat against the chair, flat ways on the chair, so it was already down, so flat, like horizontally on the chair, flat, not going anywhere. I had my mic case was on the table. So we went over to the other side of the room. Karen's saying Dominic's feeling his dad there. Karen's feeling she's getting a headache, and she's feeling a mischievous spirit in this room. And then Dave Antonow, who really he doesn't sense a lot of stuff. He doesn't have the ability.
He doesn't really say too much.
Dave doesn't say too much, but he's thinking. Dave's got, he's always thinking. But he had said even that right then and there. He's like, now I'm getting an uncomfortable feeling. So as soon as he said that, bang, we hear this bang, and we look, and we're like, what the hell was that? So we go over to the front of the door, and here we're looking down, and Dominic and Karen see it right away. The tripod is now on the floor, and my mic case is on the chair. So some kind of energy came by and threw that off the chair and onto the, off the table. And that was one of the first things. That's very unusual for that to happen for us. So that was incredible, and we caught that on video. And again, it's just makes it more valid that what we're investigating, there are really true anomalies and true paranormal energies there that are there. They're real.
Brandy, you must have questions. I know you. As we begin to wrap up, any and go anywhere. It doesn't have to be, something we just talked about.
Well,
What burning questions do you have?
I'm wondering about like the shimmer effect, and if the two of you have any opinion of that. I know a couple of the photos that we saw had like almost like a vortex looking area in them, and spots that could have given that kind of shimmer effect, kind of like on the Predator.
Yeah, sometimes they call it the Quicksilver curtain. Bigfooters have seen this, and
I didn't know if you two, have ever encountered that. What you thought about that, maybe at Bray Road, and what you think, if anything, that might be.
Go ahead, Dom.
I'm gonna go along the lines of like a cloaking device. Lee had hair samples, and he had them under a microscope, and the hair samples didn't have a core, and they were see-through. I mean, they were definitely, yeah. So it's there's definitely something to go with that. There's no, I mean, how did we disappear off the camera when we were standing there?
Right.
There's definitely something to that. Now, Eric hasn't, I don't think you've looked at the video of that yet, where he lost us.
No, I just got that today, as a matter of fact. Scott just got it to me today, so I got it right now.
So that's something, we're gonna that Eric's gonna look at, and we're gonna see what we can see and see where we disappeared. But definitely there's something to that.
The other thing too is Bill Burns had done an episode on UFO hunters, and I'll be real quick here. He, they were out at Dulce, New Mexico, I believe, and they were filming an episode. And speaking of the cloaking technology, they saw in the distance something like a car. Like a car would be kicking up the dirt, behind it, like a trail of like dust. But right. Only thing is, though, there was no car. There was no car.
Oh,
it was like a horizontal, just trail of dust. Well, all of a sudden, it disappeared right into the mountain. So, does the government have cloaking technology? Maybe. Maybe they do. But just in those kind of things. And when Dom's talking about the hair samples, that was another thing. So that's got me thinking on another level here, where is there has this dogman, Bigfoot, have the ability to cloak themselves? That could be quite possible.
Because that was a physical evidence
Mm-hmm.
for a kind of a non-physical occurrence.
Correct.
Yep.
Right. And the veil there is so thin. There is a thin veil between here and there. So are we able to, or have they been able to like bend space and time? That's the other thing.
Right. Oh,
I mean, you could talk about that all night, and
you
that's
could.
David Politis, in his book on hunters, from Jan and Bruce McAfee. I don't know if you've seen the picture. She was a deer hunter in a
Mhm.
blind, and she was experiencing the Oz factor, where everything gets really quiet. Did you guys ever experience that on your investigation?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, I got him
Say
to
that.
reveal something. All right.
We'll say this: it was dead quiet. I mean, dead quiet. Just like, yeah, it was totally quiet. No, we couldn't even hear any chirp, no bugs or anything.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yes, it's October, but it wasn't that cold. I mean, it was 80 degrees.
Right.
Right.
But it was just dead quiet. That was very, very apparent. I talked to Bruce McAfee too. I just
Oh,
talked to him. That was another guy I wanted to tell you about too. Yeah. Bruce just did a video that Dominic and I did about strange structures and weird oddities here in Bucks County. And we did a video on ringing rocks over here in Bucks County, right around the corner from where I grew up as a kid, and I went to school around the corner from where this boulder field is. That basically you take a hammer and you hit these rocks, and they've got these incredible tones to them. So that's another mystery there too. But I talked to Bruce about that, who had, Bruce McAfee. There's a guy that he's been one of the guys to help declassify a lot of the UFO footage that we're seeing today. And one of my favorite cases that Bruce was on and investigated was the Japanese airline UFO encounter over Alaska, and that the JAL flight.
yes.
That was phenomenal. If some of your listeners get a chance to check that out, that is one of the cornerstone cases in ufology. What the pilots saw and what they encountered for, I think, something like almost 30 minutes.
Well, as a photographic expert for the Navy, he analyzed the picture that his wife took of something was jumping around in the tree nearby, and the photograph is in the back of the book on hunters, and I think you can find it online. But you see this kind of a blur, and then off the side you can see these black hairs. And that is creepy as hell. There was also a UFO sighting occurring about a half mile away at the same time. Some of
Wow.
this sounds a little bit like John Keel's window areas, but
Yeah,
this is
John Keel and the Living Lights. I mean, amazing. I
oh
mean, it's
the
incredible. I
purple
mean,
blobs in the Chief Cornstalk area.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, the right here in Bucks County in 2008, Dominic will tell you, we had a huge UFO flap here.
Yep.
It made national headlines. And I mean, I myself in February of 2016, I actually encountered those orange orbs, and I thought it was somebody we were going over a bridge, and out of the blue, and it was nighttime, but out of nowhere, these 5 orange orbs just looked like balls of fire. They just appeared, and then they stopped. They looked like they were doing a search pattern over the river that we were going over, and then one by one petered out. And here I am fumbling with my camera trying to get a picture, and I was able to get one picture of this, and you could clearly see a big red orb on the camera, and it was just amazing to me. And then I went online, and it turns out that they had other sightings. But me, being the skeptic, sometimes I'm sitting there. Why did I really see what I just saw? And I looked, and I'm trying to rationalize it too. There's a restaurant that's over there, and I'm thinking, hey, did they just send off Chinese lanterns? Maybe could that have been some like wedding going on over there? Well, it was February and it was cold. There was nobody getting married, on a Monday night. So it was really, really spooky, and I'll never forget that. And I'll send you, Steve, what a mock-up of what I saw, so you can get an idea of what it was.
Excellent.
Yeah, you'll be fascinated by that.
Well, before we close out, do you guys have anything you want to add to this particular conversation? If you want to reveal a little more, that would be fine. But we can leave them wanting and
Absolutely.
let them stay tuned for the next show.
Absolutely not.
Well, there's gratitude for you. Okay.
No, Steve, I mean, what a pleasure meeting you and Brandy. I mean, you guys are awesome. And,
Yep.
I mean, this is, where can you go in the world and meet another paranormal investigator in the middle of nowhere on Bray Road and then be on a show like a week later?
Well, it certainly helped me because I wondered, how the hell am I going to meet my deadline for this week? Oh, here's some guys from Pennsylvania. They'll do it.
Yeah, there's a guy creeping around the corn. Oh, it's Dominic.
Well, listen, please tell everybody how to get a hold of you and where to find all your videos and so forth.
Sure. They can find us on Facebook. It's Bucks County Paranormal Investigations. We're also on YouTube. Same thing, Bucks County Paranormal Investigations. Instagram, you can find Bucks County Paranormal Investigations. Also look for myself, Eric Mintel. Dominic is on Instagram as well. And we lead a very, very active social media community. We have a lot of followers on the Bucks County page, and just getting a lot of really great press. Just had a story written in Rivertowns magazine, and been phenomenal. And one of the other guys I just interviewed was Dave Schrader from the Holzer Files. And
Oh, yes.
another great guy, and what stories to tell. But that's where you could find us, and you could find me editing this video very soon.
Well, I really hope you guys come back soon after you get this put together, because and you will be able to talk more about the stuff you saw and experienced.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. And I think we're talking about coming back next year to maybe do a town hall and do get some witnesses and do a maybe a little bit of a, maybe we could try to connect with Donna and maybe try to get some more people and come out and do a talk, and try to get.
That would be so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it's just a fascinating subject to me, and everybody's got a story. It's amazing.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you guys on the show. Brandy, any parting comments for us?
Just keep your dogs on leashes.
Again, thank you guys so much, and looking
welcome.
forward to the. And by the way, it doesn't. I'd like to have you guys back every once in a while. I mean, you guys are doing so much, while the adventure in the cornfield is pretty amazing. I'm sure you have a lot of other things to talk about.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to come back for sure. I'd love for you to talk to the whole team.
Oh yes, well, we can do a variety of shows. Brandy, thank you for being here. I really, as someone that has witnessed these incredible photographs, and one that serendipity struck, and we met these great people.
Yeah.
I really wanted you to be here tonight.
Thank you. It has been my honor.
Yeah, thank you, Brandy. So great to meet you and Steve. And yeah, definitely let's do this again.
Okay, everybody sit tight. I'll do my little closeout here. I'd like to talk to you for just a couple minutes afterwards.
Sure.
The High Strangeness Factor was created by Steve Ward and Andy Mercer, and is copyrighted by the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I want to thank Irene Allen Block and Mark Johnson, who, of course, are our fearless leaders here at the network. I also want to thank Andy Mercer in his dual role as co-host and producer, and Brian Zeller, who composed the original music for the show. I can also be heard on Mac Maloney's Military X-Files as a correspondent weekly on this same network. And I am Steve Ward, your humble host here on the High Strangeness Factor, a displaced Yank on Paranormal UK Radio. Thank you for listening, and I will see you all again in a fortnight. Take care.